In our last episode, we had put on epoxy fillets using a liquid epoxy. Our next epoxy that I'm going to show you is called rocket epoxy. It looks like this, and it comes in a jar, and each part is more viscous than the liquid epoxy. So it can be poured, but it's very thick. I've already measured out an equal amount of parts A and part B into this little container here, and you can see how thick it is. And I'll mix this up real quick. Okay, all right, that's mixed, and as before, I want to put that into a little bag and use that as kind of like the cake decorators technique to squeeze it out. So I kind of turn the bag inside out. All right, that's probably plenty. For cleanup on epoxy, I recommend using just rubbing alcohol. And just take some alcohol and clean off your stir stick. Clean this off. And keep that around because I'm going to need it. Okay, so it's in the bag, and again, as before, get it all down to one little corner. Okay, so it's down in my corner, and I'm going to squeeze that out. On this one here, what I've done is I've taken some tape, just regular masking tape, and I've run it just like about 1/8 of an inch off. Now this, how far away you put it from the edge will determine how thick your fillets are. On a small rocket like this, I've got them pretty small. And again, I'll take my bag, and I just want to take off just a little corner here, so that I can squeeze it out, and this allows me to control where it goes a little more than just trying to squeeze it out with a scoop. Okay, so I've got it on there, and then I again run my finger, and I can see right at the edge I've missed a little bit, so I'm going to apply it back in there like that. And then I'll do the next one. The advantage of this is because it's so thick and it doesn't run very much, I can do all the fins rather quickly on the rocket. And then don't forget this front edge right there. Bring it around like that. And then if you're really good, you can even take this and do it freehand like that. Again, just bring it around that corner like that. That looks like pretty good fillet. I just missed a little bit on the back. I'll do the next one too, just to show you. This was the one that I had put the super glue fillet on. So just put an epoxy over it. It doesn't hurt it. And you can do that if you want. You can layer fillets on top of each other for strength. But I would put the epoxy on the bottom because it's so strong. You're not going to need much on top of that. And again, if you get excess on your rocket, just a little bit of alcohol, and you can wipe that off. And we'll let that harden, and when that does harden, it will look like this one right here. Nice. It has a fairly smooth texture to it, and it feathers out really nice. It's not as shiny as the liquid, but it's not too bad. And it stays put. You know, I could have it vertical like that. And these that have the tape on them, if I remove the tape, I'll have a nice sharp edge on my epoxy joint, on the fillet there. This one you can see it really nice, that nice sharp edge. Just like that. And so that's the rocket epoxy. Rocket epoxy is very strong. It has a working time approximately 20 minutes and a full cure overnight. The next epoxy that I like is even thicker. Now this is a putty type epoxy. This is called Fix-It. And this comes in a 2-part mix like this. And you can see it's really thick. It doesn't run at all. The Fix-It is a working time of about 20 minutes and a full cure overnight. So I mixed this up probably like 5 minutes before I started this video. And you can see it's like modeling clay. It's stiff. And to use this to make a fillet, you just take a chunk and you roll it into a snake. Like that. And then you just put it into your fillet and you just smash it in there as tight as you can without breaking anything. Anything that overhangs, you just snap off. And you want to work it in really tight. Just like that. And now we want to smooth it out. And to smooth it out, you can either use water or alcohol. And I'll just take a little alcohol. You can see it's just there on my table, just so I can get my finger wet. And you bring it and you slide it along the fillet like that. You can see this is a really thick fillet because the material is really thick. And I got a little excess there, so I'll take that off. I don't know what happened to my little snake. Again, don't forget around the front edge like that. Now your edges probably aren't going to be as sharp as the edges with the rocket epoxy where we use the tape. But the little trick you can use is to take a razor blade like this. And if any hangs over the edge, you can just cut it off. So I cut off just a little bit right there to make that edge straight. And then to feather out the edge, again, takes a little bit of, make your finger a little wet and just rub it across to feather that edge out. With the Fix-It epoxy, you can do a whole rocket all at once. You can leave it like this in a vertical position and it's not going anywhere. The other epoxy that I like is called Bond-Aid, and it's similar. The difference is the working time. So this is the Bond-Aid, and it comes in a stick like this, and it's a long stick. I've been using it up. And it's a two-part mix, but they're already pre-measured. And you just take a knife and you just cut off what you need. And this has a little plastic liner on the outside. So here's that little liner. So you just peel that off. You don't want that in your mix. So you peel that off. And you can put this in there. And then you mix this together. And you just knead it like dough. And this is, again, very stiff. Now this stuff is a lot faster cure. This stuff, where the Fix-It is 20 minutes of working time, this is less than 5. So this stuff, you can't do the whole rocket at once. You're going to be mixing it again and again. You'll probably do maybe 2 fillets and then have to mix up some more to do the next 2 because it's so fast in its cure. So you want to get a nice uniform color. So mix fast. And this stuff, you'll feel it starting to warm up. It's a chemical cure, so it's exothermic, so it generates heat as it cures. And if you are mixing, you'll start to feel it. So you just, again, just take off a small chunk, roll it into a snake again. Stick it where you want it to go. Snap off anything you don't need. And again, press it in there. And again, just take a little bit of alcohol, wet my finger so I can run it across there. You can see that this one, my edge is not very straight at all. So again, as before, I can take a razor blade and just cut and scrape anything that I don't want so that it looks nice and uniform. Again, this is part of the aesthetics of your rocket, making it look really nice. Just like that. Again, this is not so straight, so I'm going to take my razor blade and cut off so that it looks really nice. Don't use too much liquid to smooth it out because you could get it on the paper. And as you know, paper and water, they don't really like each other. It dissolves the fibers and then it makes the paper rough. So that is the Bond-Aid. And again, this is an epoxy. It's structural. It's rock hard once it cures, but the working time on this is like in 5 minutes, this is going to be rock hard. All right, so now we have the structural part of our rocket completed using whatever glue we did. You know, we used liquid epoxy, we used the rocket epoxy, the Bond-Aid, which is this, and then the Fix-It, which was that. Now, at this point, after everything is hardened, we want to make it look pretty. And so one of the things that we can do is we can sand that fillet to make it nice and smooth, and I showed you how to do that. But there are times when you still don't get a nice appearance. And so you don't want to reapply epoxy again because it takes a long time and it's messy. So at this point, you can use some lightweight fillers. So the fillers that I like, you know, I choose one of three. We have Elmer's wood filler, and this is a thick paste. And I really like this stuff, particularly when working with kids, because this is water soluble. So if you want to make it thinner, you just add a little bit of water and you mix it up like toothpaste, and it'll get nice and thin. As you can see right now, it's pretty pasty as it comes out of the container. I also use this for filling the surface of fins. You can use automotive spot putty. It's called glazing and spot putty. This stuff is, instead of using water as the solvent, it uses petroleum products. Because of that, it will give off a petroleum fume, which you don't really want to be breathing. So I wouldn't use this around kids. It's the same with the Tamiya putty. We sell this here at Apogee Components. This is a nice putty. The difference is I've gone ahead and I'll show you how to put this on. It's like the wood filler, because it's water soluble, I can put it on with my fingers without using gloves. If I'm using the Bondo or wood glue, you know, automotive putty or the Tamiya putty, you definitely have to wear gloves because, you know, the petroleum is going to give you a chemical burn. But this stuff is water soluble, so you can just take a lump of it on your finger. And I've already done it here on this fin, but you just take it and you can apply it. And this, I would apply it on top of the fin fillet you've made. And this is non-structural, so it doesn't add any strength. It's very weak. So use it on top of epoxy or on top of glue that you've already put it on there. And this is for the cosmetic reasons, or to make that nice fairing that you want for, you know, to reduce the drag on your rocket. This, again, it's drying really fast, because here in Colorado we have such dry humidity that this stuff dries pretty fast. It depends on where you live. If you're on the east coast of the United States, where there's a lot more humidity, it's going to take a little bit longer to dry. So now this I did yesterday, and it's already hardened, and I can take it and start sanding. And as you can see, as you start sanding, it's already making a lot of dust. And that's what I like about it, because it sands so fast. And any of these putties are going to sand pretty quick. And you can work those edges and feather them out. And by feathering, I mean it gets thinner and thinner and thinner on the edges. And so this can fix, you know, if your epoxy doesn't look straight, when you put that the filler into it, you can feather it out really nice and make it smooth. But this doesn't add any strength. So you can't use it by itself as a fin fillet. Okay, so that one is pretty close to being done. This is the Tamiya putty. The difference here is, because this is a petroleum-based product, it hardens by the liquid portion evaporating out. And once it's evaporated out, it hardens. But what happens with some petroleum products is the surface evaporates out quick, but it leaves liquid or, you know, soft underneath. So it takes a little bit longer to dry, and you have to test it. So you can see this I put on yesterday, and you can see I can push my finger into it. So it's not fully hardened yet. So on this stuff, it has to be put down really thin. So this is really good for fixing blemishes, not for building up thick surfaces. In fact, all the putties, if you put them on thick, when the liquid evaporates out, it's going to sink because that's just what it does. It sinks, and you're going to get little dips in your surface. So when you're using a putty like any of these, put it on thin, and if you need more, you have to put it on in coats, thin coats. This is the Bondo putty. This I put on thick, and I don't know if you can actually see it, but it actually cracked. As it was evaporating out, it left a crack. And so to fix that, you just put in another layer on top, and then it will fix that crack. And again, this stuff sands nice. When I mean nice, it creates a lot of dust. You can see all the dust that's coming off of there. And you can feather out the edges really nice. And you can do that side and do this side. So the difference between the petroleum-based stuff and the wood filler is the solvent in it. So the petroleum-based will dry faster if it's thin than the wood filler, and it sands about the same. So the difference is it's a little bit quicker using the petroleum stuff, but it's not really good for using it around kids. So for kids under the age of 18, this stuff is, I really like that stuff for that application. You can see there's a lot of dust here on the table because it's sand. Both of them sand really fast, and you make a nice feathered edge really quick. So I think that covers pretty much everything that I know about fin fillets. As I said, this is a topic you can go really deep into. Obviously, this is not all the different materials that you could use. And most of the fins that we were doing here were surface mount. If you want something even stronger, you're probably going to use a through-the-wall fin, which is a slot, cut it into the tube, and the fin goes through the wall of the outside and bonds to the tube on the inside, to the engine mount tube on the inside. And what that does is it gives you two places where there's glue joints. So it's double the glue joints, and it makes it much harder to snap a fin off. But all these fins are on here pretty good. The wood glue that I used on these when I attached them is pretty strong. So that's kind of what we recommend here at Apogee, is you start with wood glue, put your fins on, and then you can add your fin fillets later for either aerodynamic performance, adding strength, or just making them look really pretty. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Tell your friends, share it with others. Tell your friends about Apogee. We really could use your recommendation. My name again is Tim Van Milligan. May the winds be light, may the skies be blue, and may all your rockets fly straight and true.